All right, so we are taking a look at Highway Hijinks, and I'm joined by Frinky. I'm going to drop the link to the Steam store page so people can check it out and wishlist it. I am playing. This is a beta build of the game. Is that right?
And that is correct. And the game's actually it's going to be coming out to early access on the 22nd, which is our first day at GDX.
Nice. Yeah. So that is the 22nd of July, 2024, for context.
Yeah, it is coming out in 10 days.
10 days. Wow. Okay. So we have been discussing a lot of changes and suggestions, which are definitely not going to be. There's not going to be time to implement most of those.
I can definitely get implemented. Honestly, like the way we have our bars set up, we can change. All we have to do is change the shape, and they'll behave exactly the same. And then adding animations, like all of that, like to update the UI to the way that you're suggesting, shouldn't be more than a day's work. And those ideas are very good because we have not touched the UI too much since sort of getting this game ready for GDX and making sure that it is more of a computer game than a mobile game. And I do like the idea of I really like the idea of like unifying those indicators to be look like car indicators. Because I personally am horrible with UI and like have no ideas like for what I should do with UI, but something like that's a great place to get inspiration. It's just actual cars.
I think it's a good way to like pull some design language from that. I'm not. It's funny because UI and UX are so like close, and you really want someone who can do both. For my part, I feel like I can do the UX side of things, which is why I'm making all these recommendations of like try to make things much bigger, try to look at where the player is actually like what is their point of focus. If you had the ability to set up even a rudimentary like pupil eye tracker to see like where are people looking on the screen, see how much of your UI you can cluster around that point. But yeah, starting with the idea of copying some of the design language from these fancy new cars that have these like all screen displays, which argue as to whether or not that's safe. But for the context of a game, it's great.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. And so that's definitely something we'll be doing. Balance changes is definitely another thing that we've had to do because as we've been bug fixing, that also means that items have been getting gradually worse because they don't break the game anymore. And we just haven't really touched most of the items since implementation. We've touched the weapons a lot, but not so much the passives. And so we're definitely going to be looking at those to make sure that they are quite a bit better. Because like I said before, when they first got implemented, every sort of like rotation with going to a pit stop and going to a race, you'd be getting up to 9 items. And now like you're getting 3 or 4 max. And so we'll definitely be increasing the value that each item represents. And we'll also be reducing some of the prices. Just because, and this is for a terrible reason, but the way enemies dropped scrap used to be relative to their health, which meant that the amount of scrap you got from them would scale very, very quickly. Because I think after I think it's 10 minutes of playing, like every enemy's health is double what it would be in the very beginning of the game.
Oh, okay.
So you would just get more and more scrap from them, alongside the fact that you're more powerful, so you're destroying things more often. And that doesn't happen anymore. Which makes it a lot easier to balance the pricing. We just haven't quite gotten around to it. But yeah, that's definitely something we will be doing before GDX. But yeah, and release. We're pretty much looking at that UI, probably adding some more sound effects, and then just rebalancing, and then like adding some more items here and there based on what we think would fit in the game really well. Because passive items are pretty easy to add.
So this is my fault for not asking this right away, but if you could just briefly talk about what is your role on the project and perhaps your like background in development.
Gosh, yeah. For this project, I'm the lead dev. So I pretty much touch on everything in the game, and before we had other people to work on the game, I literally did everything for the game. But now we have a programmer. I guess at the beginning we also had the programmer. He does like 99% of the programming and 100% of the back end. And it's very. He's the reason why it's easy to add modules, which are the passive items. And then we have some people to model. Or we have one guy to model, and then we just now have a new artist for the 2D art. And so yeah, pretty much I mostly do the graphical effects for the project, and sort of guide the team, and then the music. So yeah, that's
the music, the lovely music that we're hearing, kind of quiet right now. I would encourage everyone. You've got a YouTube channel where you have some of your music uploaded, and then do you have a SoundCloud as well?
I do have a SoundCloud. Really need to update it. It has 3 songs from 2 years ago. Okay. So gotta get to that. But yeah, the this song in the game will be released either when the game comes out or a little while after, depending on how Spotify feels about reviewing it. Because I like to have all the releases at the same time.
So is Spotify the best place to find your music, or?
It'll be everywhere. I just like to release everything, I guess, at the same time, and Spotify's the slowest, so I release with Spotify.
Gotcha.
But yeah, so it'll probably be like 26th. Actually, yeah, I can probably make it 26th or 27th. The song will actually be coming out onto streaming platforms. But yeah, personally, I do prefer if people listen on Spotify. But I understand that YouTube's popular too, and I will be putting all of my music on SoundCloud as well.
Yeah, it's nothing personal. I just don't even have a Spotify account.
Yeah, no, that's valid. I was fine with it until instead of making playlists, I just used liked songs, and then I found out they just deleted like 100 of my liked songs.
Yep.
Not happy.
Yep. Oh man. Yeah. So, can you talk a little bit about like this project? Like, is this? You sort of mentioned like you sort of did everything at the start. So, is this project like your baby, or are you like working on this as part of a company, or like where's this coming from?
So I started this with the programmer who him and I founded ODE Software, and we sort of just started with some Ludum Dares, some game jams, which I remember a while ago we got you to play one. If you remember, it was one where like you had to go onto like these fake social medias.
Yeah.
Where people have like AI generated images and stuff, and you had to dox them.
Yeah, I thought that was. I thought that was a really cool game because it kind of highlighted it got people into the mentality of here's how easily a malicious attacker could take things down if they were so motivated, and be careful what you post online because it could come back to bite you.
Yeah, exactly. And we'll probably revisit that game eventually, but this game is definitely our baby at the moment. It's the only thing we are working on. And we have a long road planned out for it, as long as we can keep working on it. But yeah, we've been programming, because it's mainly been me and then Kyle, the programmer. We've just recently added our new people, like within the last 3 or 4 months. Me and Kyle have been programming and making games for I think about 3 years now, and just game jam games.
Okay, nice.
Till now.
Oh my god. Okay, so that was unfortunate. The AI exploded something behind me, and then I died.
Oh yeah, what's happening is he has a thing. He has a module because the AIs get modules.
Yeah.
He has one where when his shield breaks, it explodes.
Yeah, it's
And
just unlucky.
yeah, it's a little rough. I think what's happening is explosions specifically have something for dealing less damage to the player.
Mm.
I don't think I recalibrated that since I buffed it. So I just have to make sure that it's only doing like 1% damage to the player, because we still want it to like, bonk the player, but we don't want the player to absolutely blow up. But I will say, explosions should only kill you if you are at 1 health, or else they'll just set you to 1 health if they're going to kill you.
Interesting. Okay.
Just because, yeah, sometimes they come from behind you, and it's like, well, what was I supposed to do about that?
Yeah.
But yeah.
So what's the capacity in which you're working on this game? Like, is it just through like labor of love, spare time, or?
Yeah, it's pretty much spare time from all of us, and none of us are getting paid yet. I'm a student, and I'm currently on summer, so I've been working on the game pretty much full time, just over the break. But yeah, it's pretty much just in our free time. See what we can do for the game.
Nice. No, I'm glad that you can find a team to work together on something like this, and it's really incredible. Like when everyone is able to contribute their spare time like that, you can still end up with something that seems quite polished in the end. So I wish you the best of luck. Are you looking for a publisher down the line?
We've thought a lot about it. We really do have to see, because I think I would like to do the game mostly on our own, except for what the final feature we plan to add, which is going to be a cooperative multiplayer, which we definitely want a publisher for, because that means basically remaking the whole game, because this game is not made for multiplayer.
Yeah, netcode be like that. Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That feature is deserving of a sequel. Like, file that away for now, and when it comes to rewriting the game from scratch to support netcode, that can be a goal from the start in a sequel project to this game.
Yeah, that's really a smart way to do it, eh? If we're gonna rewrite the game anyways, might as well just truly rewrite it. Get all the advantages of starting from zero.
It's
that's
one of those...
true. Cause...
Sorry,
go.
Oh, I just it's one of the reasons why, like, there's this meme of like, oh, haha, Valve can't count to 3. Well, okay, but the reason that they have stated for that is we make the first version of the game, we see a bunch of things we want to improve, and then we make that version, and then we've done it, and everything else, like, you start to get into addition by subtraction after that, and or subtraction by addition, so that there isn't necessarily a need to make a Team Fortress 3 or a Portal 3, like, as much as people want more of these games. Like, Nintendo actually has a very similar philosophy to this. Like, there's a reason that they didn't make a new WarioWare for so long. There's a reason they didn't make a new Paper Mario for so long. They don't like to make games that are just more content. Insert jokes about Mario being the same for the last 20 years, whatever. I don't buy it. Every single Mario game is different if you look at it. If you look at the exception to that being some of the like new Super Mario Brothers games, those didn't really feel like they had as much of an identity. Nonetheless, the idea of you release the game as is, and you have all these ideas and inspiration of here are things we want to improve about it. Ideally, the first game has done well enough that you can either afford to fund the next one on your own, or you can convince a publisher that, like, hey, it's worth it, look at this one. But on the other hand, if the first game did not perform well enough on its own, then you can kind of rethink whether it's worth investing a whole bunch of time and money into adding a like big new expensive feature.
Yeah, that's a good point, and I do like that philosophy, especially when starting out as a non-funded dev team.
Yeah,
because we are all learning. Some of us have some experience with like Ludum Dares, and that's the extent of it, where some of us have no experience before this game, and so it's like there's a lot of things that A, like we'll just have more experience to do, and B, if we're able to get a publisher, which I think I would want if we are going to be doing multiplayer, then we have the funding to also make sure that like I think one main thing is just like that the creative design process is a lot more sophisticated, and things like that. And so yeah, I definitely agree with that sentiment.
Right. So the next thing I was going to ask then is, what was the most difficult problem that you've encountered during development so far, and what was your solution to that?
See, originally, I was going to come in here and say that making the race make sense. Like, sort of the idea of like you win the race and then you get things by winning the race, and then you can also make the race more difficult to get more items. Figuring that out was very difficult. The race itself has been through, I think, 4 reworks, this being the 4th. And while I don't think we do a good enough job of like telling the player that they have vouchers, that's literally just a matter of like making it flash in your inventory while you're in the shop, right? So that you can use it. But everything else, at least you seem to understand. You're the first person to play this version of the race, by the way. And it seemed like you understood what was going on, like when you're making the race harder, and then, you know, you wanted to win.
Yes, like in terms of encountering like when you roll up against other racers, you have the opportunity to increase the risk, but also increase the reward.
Yeah, and just communicating that was very difficult because I learned something interesting, and it's that people do not like to read.
That is a revelation that every designer comes across at one point. Yes.
You need to learn how to abstractly portray everything with colors and shapes so that they can get it in the 6 milliseconds they look at your UI before clicking off. I was going to say that, but now I'm kind of just thinking it might be UI in general because we have been struggling with that. But I also do really like the ideas provided. But in general, clarity, especially for a mobile game, like having necessary UI on screen while also not just making it so the player can't see was very, very difficult because like when we first started, there'd be so much UI on the screen, like while you're in the race, right when you won, there'd be so much on the screen that it's like you can only see like a portion of the road in front of you, and so people would just die. And then so we started like reducing the amount of things on the UI and simplifying as best we could. But then we were like, okay, we're funny driving juice. We are making it PC. All of a sudden, we now have like this huge area to put stuff in, which will definitely help a lot. But yeah, I'd still say it's probably just making sure that people understand what's going on in the game.
Yeah, I do think that in general, as you say, like part of the reason why it's so important to reduce things to iconography, and also it's important to have that iconography be internally consistent. You were saying like people didn't understand that they had vouchers. Well, I don't know what these tesseracts are. You know, like I can see you call it a voucher, but I don't know why is a tesseract a voucher? Like, why doesn't a voucher look like a little ticket with a like torn off kind of thing, right?
That is because instead of using AI, we will now use the tesseract for placeholder models or for placeholder sprites.
So yeah, I think that if you are able to use have a replacement icon here that actually looks more like a ticket, then people will have a more intuitive understanding of what that's going to be. The funny thing is,
I definitely agree.
The funny thing is, if you put text in front of people, they won't read it. If you put things in a tooltip, that people have to push a button or move their cursor over to see, then they will read it, because it is information they have sought out themselves.
I think at the very, very least, we're going to be doing that for the pickups.
Mm-hmm.
Is just like either when it spawns or just at the beginning of the game, it'll show you the thing and it'll be like, this is what it will give you.
Yeah.
And then that way the player knows to not avoid them, because that is one thing that we still have sometimes is playtesters want to avoid things on the road, which is good. Most drivers should. But sometimes they start avoiding the pickups, and it's like, well, you're not going to get very far.
Yeah. No, there was a power up I worked on in a game, or sorry, it was not a power up. It was a hazard. It was this like electrical sparky hazard thing, and originally it was blue, so people wanted to pick it up, and then we tried to make it look like red, and people still would run into it. And then what I realized was the best way to convince people that this was not a power-up or a good thing was to put it in a pit with a bunch of other ones, because many things at the bottom of a pit doesn't look like a power-up anymore. When you encounter one of these things by themselves, it looks like a power-up. But if you have like a bunch of them, so like just sometimes the context in which things are presented can change how people perceive it, even if you have changed nothing about the design of the thing itself. It was a really fascinating revelation.
Yeah, that is definitely interesting. But we will definitely be changing just the designs for the pickups, because like the only one that makes sense is the battery.
Yeah,
and it's because the battery was made after we got a modeler to make it. And so all the other ones will be like their shape will represent something that should intuitively describe. Like the model for the health pickup is going to be that portable repair pickup in the pit stop, like that stripe on a model. And so we definitely will be switching to that, which will help with clarity. But I still think that those tooltips are definitely a good idea. I do want to like not have too many, but it's difficult. I'm having a couple just to like orient the player in the game, even if it just appears like on the first run.
Yeah.
I feel like they're pretty important.
Ooh, I just realized I need to use a healing kit here because I was starting to get low on HP. It was because I saw those like the zeros and ones kind of peeking through. I'm like, yes, you told me that means damage. It's not something that I would have necessarily done intuitively.
Yeah, it might become a little more intuitive once we start like explaining that, oh yeah, your car is supposed to be AI, because right now this car is still actually just like from a Unity 3D car pack, which is funny because the car for the people that you're racing isn't. It's something that we modeled ourselves. But that was, I suppose, just due to miscommunication.
Oh.
But yeah, we will try to make that more obvious in the design, and also, I mean, with that UI, that'll definitely help until like we actually just pass the threshold, and like every car just has that on its windshield now. And then just some context in like the environment.
One thing I gotta say, it is tripping me up so badly that the jump power-up is activated by pressing left on the D-pad. Like, I really want jump to be A. I know this is not a game where you just normally have a jump, but...
Yeah, well, for computer controls specifically, jump has a special case where it is also bound to W.
Interesting.
You can probably implement that for controller, too. Because, yeah, jump is a special ability, just because it gamers already have expectations for it.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So do you want to talk about a little bit of what some of your plans are for the game going forward?
Yeah, sure. right now, short term is obviously just get it ready for an early access release and ready for GDX, which we've already talked about, get the UI and stuff. The next step after that, we're probably going to look at. I mean, of course, we just want to be like consistently adding items to the game.
Yeah.
Until I don't know what I want the item count to be at. Right now, I think it's only at like 70. Probably, I don't know. We'll probably reconsider at like 100 or 200. Just because like there's only one legendary in the game right now. But we'll be adding some new environments. I think first thing we're going to do is we want to add like an ocean environment where the road is going over water. Specifically because when I was learning to make the shader for the terrain, I learned to make like a water shader, and I was like, hey, that looks pretty cool. What if I made that later? And then another one will be a city one. Mm-hmm. And then well, the thing we've been working on now is trying to get some bigger enemies involved. Because everything you've seen so far is just stuff on the road.
Yeah.
But we just added now like a turret that'll actually shoot at you. It's not at the road, or not on the road. It's beside the road. And then you have to destroy like these generators that are on the road in order to kill it. So it has like multiple health bars. And then we'll have some. One thing I do want to look at is some sort of like enemy that has like legs that are controlled by like some IK logic, so that it can actually like walk along the terrain to chase you. And then once we get it in the cities, it can like be on the buildings.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. And another thing is just sort of populating the road. Something like oil spills to make you like spin out. Obstacles that'll like lunge at you when you get too close. And then like super long term, we want to sort of switch this game from just an endless runner to be more like Risk of Rain, where you have the option to end your run.
Yeah.
And we'll do that sort of by adding bosses. So we're thinking of having, I don't know how many zones we'll actually have. But every sort of zone, you will fight a boss. They'll give you a bunch of stuff, and then you move on. And we already have like some ideas for some of the bosses, and we're hoping to make them all like relatively creative, or like very, very, I suppose, engaging. Mm-hmm. Like it's not just like large thing with health bar chasing you. Yeah. Like I think the first boss we're going to add, we want it to sort of like its first phase will be like, you know, using the road and stuff as you'd expect, and it's just firing stuff at you. Could be missiles, lasers. But we want it to have like a second phase where it sort of like turns into, it'll probably become top down temporarily and go into like a bullet hell sort of thing. Another one is if the road is 4 lanes,
yeah,
all we have to do is slightly adjust the controls for it to become a Mania rhythm game. So I think a rhythm boss would be awesome. And yeah, sort of things like that. But that's aside from like the small things that we'll discover along the way, that's pretty much like the plan for the future.
Yeah, it's one small thing that like just occurred to me now. Like as I was playing, there are definitely the signs along the side of the road, but I'm wondering if you can have a sign that's like a overhead, so that it crosses the player's line of sight, because I don't always see the signs along the sides.
Yeah, that's actually, we have planned to add those just because it's a highway and it needs highway signs like that.
Yeah.
Wasn't too sure what information to put on it. But yeah, because I'm thinking for the pit stop, occasionally, which even you did today, players will miss the pit stop.
Yeah.
And we have a big sign for it, but it's
Yeah.
like a roadside sign.
Yeah.
I'm thinking if we just make that above the road, that could definitely be quite a bit easier to see. It just going to be a bit of a pain to make the textures and stuff like tile properly so that it can like be procedural in its length to fit on the random road.
Yeah, because you do vary the thickness of it, I suppose.
Yeah, which we've already solved. If you see like at the beginning of the race, there's is it the end? I think it's the end of the race. There's a race flag, and it's always the length of the road.
Yeah.
So we know how to do it. We just haven't done it yet.
Yeah, I do think like it is going to be best for visibility's sake if it is directly centered on the screen. If it was like a post that had a sign sticking out the side, sometimes that still happens in a lot. It's pretty common in road signage to have something that is like not necessarily going all the way across. You could have a highway sign with your furthest point traveled, yes, or a sign spawn point in the distance to get a new high score. Yeah, that's a great suggestion, Artemis. Yeah. If anyone actually has any other questions or suggestions they'd like to drop in chat, now would be the time to do so, because I think we'll be wrapping things up here momentarily. But yeah, so I guess I do like the idea of the boss battles being something that actually kind of changes the mode of play. That'll really make them each stand out, feel different. So yeah, I like the idea of things becoming top-down or becoming like a rhythm-style game. If I had to... Yeah. Man, I'm wondering... Is there ever going to be... Is the road ever going to curve? Or is it always going to be like a straight line going out ahead?
From a design perspective, I really want to do that because it sounds awesome. And like one thing I want to have is like when you're in the city or like in the final level, the final boss is going to be in like a giant tower, and I want the road to be like curving around the tower as you go up. That is going to be absolutely brutal to make.
Yeah.
The amount of times, instead of like doing any amount of distance calculations, we just take the Z position. It's going to be brutal, but it's something... I've talked to the programmer about this because it's pretty much his job if we end up doing that, because it's just like a huge back-end rework for the road.
Yeah.
And he's pretty much said, yeah, if we make enough money, I guess I can. Which is honestly fair, because I wouldn't want to do that for free either.
Yeah, no, that's I do like it's so funny, like the way sometimes things are either like, oh yeah, wow, that would be easy, or that's next to impossible. And sometimes that line is very blurry.
Yeah, a lot of it just happens just because it's like, we're already in so deep with the way that the game operates that we're basically changing it on a fundamental level. And it's something we should have considered when first making the road. We should have taken the easiest path when making the back end for the road.
And you know what? This is one of those ideas. File it for the sequel.
Real.
Because, as you say, it would be too much reworking to do that now.
Yeah, it would be a whole lot. Yeah, are there any other questions? Perhaps from people in chat?
I put the call out, but it doesn't seem like we've got anything else coming in just this moment. Because there was a fair bit before we got the interview portion started, but I feel like a lot of things were sort of asked and answered at that time. So I guess what I will ask then is, what's the best way for people to follow the development of this game? Because you've got a Discord, right?
Yeah, the Discord is definitely the best place at the moment. Following GDX, we're going to be making our socials not completely dead. But yeah, there are two places. So yeah, that Discord, and then I just have a website link, which kind of serves as a hub for like the Discord, the Steam page, and the all of the socials. But yeah, if people are interested, they should definitely go to the Discord because we hold like playtest sessions, and people who playtest for us and like fill out our feedback forms, they get to they get the game for free.
Nice. Oh, Serene Jellyfish, thank you so much for the tier 1 subscription. I super appreciate the support.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Oh my god, wow.
There's a lot of stuff on this road.
You did something that's very difficult to do, which is there wasn't actually a lane between the two obstacles you passed through. You just timed your lane switch in time so that you would pass between them.
Yes, completely intentional.
As you're crossing the line.
Definitely not done out of panic.
Thanks for playing and thanks for the feedback. Honestly, like this whole session may have saved the UI for GDX. So
well,
I'm very grateful.
No, that's fantastic. I love to hear it. Yeah, so no problem. Love the styling in your game, and looking forward to seeing the release. That's great to hear. Yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for bringing the game and sharing it. And I hope that I know I threw a lot of ideas at the wall. I hope some of that feels right. I think one last suggestion that I would definitely make is the more you can kind of bring things in from the edges of the screen, I would recommend it. Like having to scan your eye across the entire screen, like score number, duration number, like it's a very long distance for your eye to have to like scan across. To the point where I don't even notice that these things are related. So I think it happens in a few places where text boxes are just very wide. If there's a way to just move the bounds of the container just inwards a little.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, that's definitely. I think that was. I guess it probably made more sense on mobile, is why that's that way. But yeah, we'll definitely put something like that in a box and move things closer together. But yeah, the UI. Next time you see this game, the UI will be reworked.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing it again.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. And I guess we'll wrap things up there, but wishing you all the best. And yeah, let me know how GDX goes.
Yes, of course. Yeah, thank you. Have a good one.
You too. Bye for now.